Hi everyone, this is Ravi. Welcome back to Cypress Automation Beginners Tutorial. So this is our fifth YouTube session where I'm going to cover a very important concepts. How can we identify the locators, or how can we access the elements of your application in test by using Cypress. So in this session I'm going to teach you different techniques in identifying the locators and how can we get the locators by using Cypress with a different variety of methods. So this is very important concepts to start off with our test case automation and to start off with our creation of the framework by using Cypress automation tool. Please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon. You'll receive notifications whenever I publish more videos. Thank you. Okay, so in this lesson, I'm going to teach you all the concepts that I'm displaying on the screen. So basically, I'm going to show an application with all types of elements and the elements that are identified by using different attributes. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how can we get all the elements from the application by using tag name, and then I'm going to teach you how can we get all the elements by class name, and also we learn how can we get all the elements by specific classes, and then how can we get all the elements by id and get all the elements by specific attribute. And also I'm going to teach you how can we get elements with the combination of two different attributes. Here I'm going to teach you how to get element with the tag name and class, or by using tag name and class and id, which means I'm almost specifying three attributes: tag name, class and id. And then how can you get elements by using tag name, class and some attribute like type, right? So that means when you are identifying any element, you can use multiple attributes at a time. Okay, so all these kinds of different methods I'm going to teach you with a real-time application, okay, which is being built with the different elements which are assigned with the different attributes. Okay, so this is really very important concept, guys, because in real time the main challenge is to identify the locators of your application. Okay, so now let's jump onto the system and see how can we perform all these actions by using Visual Studio Code by using Cypress. Okay, so this is my Visual Studio Code, right? So if you see here, I have imported one particular project, development project. Okay, this project has been imported from GitHub. I'm gonna leave the link in the description space of my YouTube channel, so you can get that link from the description. Okay, all you need to do is go to GitHub that is provided in the link, right? And then import that particular entire folder, and then you need to import the project 1 to Visual Studio Code. So basically that folder will have project 1 and project 2, but all you need to do is you need to basically, I have explained you how to import a project to the Visual Studio Code in my previous sessions. So please do visit those sessions, previous sessions, before you proceed with this session. Okay, so you need to import a project 1. Okay, that's what I did. So now once I import the project, so all I need to do is I have to initiate the application server. So basically development server to initiate the application that we are going to test. Okay, so what I can do, npm start. Okay, so basically I'm making an application up and running in my local host. Okay, so I just started my application. Okay, something already loading. If you would like to, okay, so I'm running the application now. I'm just restarting the application. Okay, so it's gonna run the application in my local folder, sorry, local host. So if you see, my application is now up and running. Okay, so what is the application that we are going to test? So this is what the application that we are going to test. So it has a lot of information. Okay, so if you click on habit, so what it will do, it's going to give you an habit checklist where I can add the habits. How? Click on add, enter habit, and save changes. So as soon as you save the changes, it is rendering a card here, okay, with the checklist that you added. If you double click here, sorry, if you click here, the again if I click, see, basically it's toggling the between right and cross mark, right? It's toggling between right and cross mark. So that is one module. Our next module is accomplishments, where I can provide the title of the accomplishment, session testing, and I can basically submit the accomplishment. As soon as I submit the accomplishment, so it says okay, complete item, so I have to check this also. Okay, and then see, if I don't complete any of the field, it's going to throw error message. Okay, so if I click check this and then click on submit application, see, it is showing me one asynchronous message where it is page loading, right? Even we are going to validate that. Okay, so once you submit the accomplishment, it's going to give you a successful message, right? If I click on go back, again you will be redirecting back to accomplishment. So this is another module. Okay, so basically to test, we are going to test all these. So once I click on this add button, a new pop-up is being displayed or not. Once I enter my how habit, right? Once I click on save changes, is it going to create a card on my system or not? Okay, and then when I click on this, there is a toggle between right and cross mark. I'm going to test this as well. In the same way, in accomplishments, when I submit accomplishments, it's going to throw an error message stating that complete the items above. So is it going to throw error message or not? So that's what we are going to test it. We are going to automate this, and then once I enter the accomplishment and submit the application, it shows me an asynchronous loading page message, right? I'm going to validate that as well. So once I submit the accomplishment, it gives you successful message. I'm going to validate that. When I click on this go back, it should go back to the accomplishment main page, right? So all these things we need to validate. So I need to automate all these things by using Cypress. So before I automate all these test cases by using Cypress, I need to understand how can I get the element, let's say example add element. How can I get this element? And then once I enter the habit, how can I get this element card? How can I get this element, right? You need to understand how to get the elements. How can you identify the elements by using Cypress? So for that, we have another module called elements here. Okay, this is another module where it has a bunch of buttons on screen, but these buttons are built by using different attributes, so that I can explain how can we get different kinds of buttons, I mean all these buttons, by using different attributes. So this application is being developed in a such a way that each button has a different attributes. I can identify all these buttons by using different attributes. So that's what we are gonna see in this lesson. Okay, so let's go back to Visual Studio. So hope you all understand what application we are validating here. Okay, so let's go back to Visual Studio Code. So now, as we already, my application is up and running. Now what I need to do, I have to start working on Cypress. So for that, first I need to install my Cypress. So installation of the Cypress I already covered in my previous session, but however, for this project I'm going to install Cypress within this particular Cypress project. Okay, npm install Cypress. So as soon as I enter npm install Cypress, it's gonna install the Cypress. Okay, so it might take a couple of seconds. Okay, so my installation is finished. Okay, so you can ignore all these vulnerabilities because that is something to do with my local application. Okay, so as soon as I install, if you see, if I go to package.json, I can see that my Cypress 7.7.0 version has been installed. Correct, so that is done. So now let's clear this. So now I have to start my Cypress npx because the Cypress is installed in my local system, so that's why now I need to use npx. So I have explained all these concepts in my previous session. Npx Cypress start. Okay, what it's gonna do, it's gonna open your Cypress. Sorry, npx npx Cypress open. Okay, so if you see, now my npx Cypress has been opened. So basically Cypress is open. If you see here, these are all the different examples that is provided by Cypress. So which I explained you in my previous session. I don't want to explain all these concepts of examples again here, but here now I'm able to open the Cypress. Correct. So now let's again close this Cypress now. So now let's start with our test automation. Okay, so for that, so this is my application. So let me copy my url, application url here. Okay, copy the application url. So let's go to first in the integration. So anything that we are going to automate, we are going to work under integration folder. So if you see the project structure, I have already explained this entire project structure in my previous session. Okay, so let me create, these are all the examples that is provided by Cypress by default. Let me create a folder, new folder called locators. Okay, under this let me create a new file called locators.spec.js. So basically I have created my new file where I'm going to start automating my test cases. Okay, now before that I want to go to a file called cypress.json. So here I want to do some configuration. What I want to define my base URL. How? Base URL colon, what is my base URL? My base URL is this. So this is my base URL. Okay, I'm defining the base URL in configuration so that I can use this base URL from the configuration in all my tests. Okay, so before we start any kind of test, I need to instruct Cypress to basically refer the Cypress libraries so that I can use the auto completion method. So how can we do that? This one I already explained in my previous session. Okay, reference types equal to Cypress. Okay, / close braces. So what it is going to do, I'm just instructing the script that please refer to the Cypress libraries so that I can have advantage of auto completion. Okay, it's going to refer all the Cypress libraries. Okay, so now first, any time before I automate test cases, I might have some preconditions. So in our case, the precondition is initiating the local, this application. I need to initiate this application for every test case, right? So for that, I don't want to write this initiation of the application in every test case. Instead, I want to specify as a precondition. So how can we do that in Cypress? By using before each. Before each, if you see, I can see as soon as I type, it is showing me all the commands, right? Because I'm referring to the Cypress above library, Cypress library. Okay, this is the advantage. Before each function, okay, before each, what should I do? Sci dot, I have explained the basic concept in my previous session. Okay, sci dot visit. So I want to visit the, what I want to visit. See, for this session, we are going to first land onto elements. Okay, so this is where we are going to land. So we already specified our base URL here, right? Already specified our base URL here. So that's why what I'm going to do, base URL slash elements. Okay, so that means it is going to take base URL and slash your elements, right? So that means we are going to land on this particular page. Okay, so that is my before each test. That means before you run each and every test, I want you to visit this site. Now let's start our test functions. So as I explained you earlier, the test functions are written in Mocha, right? Mocha is an inbuilt add-in, comes with Cypress. Okay, how we are going to write it? So first I'm going to, okay, this is my it Mocha test function block, right? What I'm going to define here, locating elements, right, with get. So what we are doing, we are actually locating elements by using get function, right? Comma, what is the function? Okay, curly braces. So now I'm going to write all the test cases here. Okay, first, what is my first test case? Get all the elements. So as I explained you, first is get all elements by tag name, correct? Get all the elements by using tag name. So let me first, before I write the function, let me show you all the tags that are available for these buttons in the application. So let me open this in Chrome, okay, instead of Opera. So let me open this in Chrome so that I can make you understand all the elements, that how the elements are defined here. Okay, so if you see, if I right click and then inspect, right, if you see every, so see, if you see, this has a div class, div tag, and then under div tag I can see lot of anchor tags are defined, right? And then under anchor tags you have some h1 h2, see anchor tags, and then header 2 header 3 tags, and then I have some classes defined, I have some IDs defined, I have some types defined, correct? All these things are defined. So now if you see, each and every element has a tag. Each and every element has tag. This element has a tag, this element has tag, right? This element has tag. What is the tag? The tag name is button. If you see, so every button has a tag name called button, correct? See, this element has a tag name called button. this element has a tag name called button, right? So that means I'm going to identify all the elements by using tag name, right? So what is the tag name? Button. Sci dot get button. That means what I'm saying, get all the elements that has a tag name called button, right? So let me execute this. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let me open the Cypress again. Okay, so now we have to see the new folder and my new test also when I open the Cypress, correct? It takes couple of seconds to open the application. Okay, so now if you see, apart from the examples that provided by Cypress, you should see my own test that I created. So this is the locator. Let's click on this. It's going to run my first test. As soon as I click on this, it's going to run my first test. If you see how many elements that we are going to see for that first test. Okay, I'm getting the elements by using tag name. Okay, so if you see here, get elements, I can see all 14 tags are available, right? That means all these, if you see the immediate, basically the advantage of the Cypress is, so for each and every command that you are writing, it shows your screenshot. So for this, I got total 14 elements, right? I have total 14 elements on the screen. 1, 2, 3, all 14 elements it is displaying here, right? So the same screenshot it is showing here. Okay, so that means our test is correct. So let's go back to our next test. So if you see here, when I inspect, as I told you earlier, I also have some tags like h1, h2. If you see, this is one tag. So now let me get all the elements with the header h3. Okay, sci.get h3. I want to get all the elements that has header h3. So as soon as I save this, automatically the test will be run automatically. Okay, so the test runs automatically. Let's save this. See, it started running the test. Done. If you see here, my second test, it identified 3 elements. What are those? These headers, get, contains, and find. These 3 elements are having a h3 tags. So now let's see. If you see here, I can just verify again. Okay, this get, this has h3 tag, and this contain has h3 tag. See, so that means our test is correct. Now let's get all the elements that has h2 tag. Okay, so not just simply save it, it's gonna run automatically. See, now if you see h2, I got only one element with h2 tag, which is the main header elements. So let's validate this in the application, this element, right? If you see here, see, this has h2 tag. So that means our test is pass. Okay, so done. Now what is our next agenda? Our next agenda is to get all the elements by using class name. Okay, get all the elements using class name. Okay, so now let's go to application and see. So what is the class name of this? My class, if you see here, the class name, see, this also having the class name elements button, and this also having the class name elements button, but the second button has a class name additionally btn with class, correct? So now I want to identify this element with the class name btn with class. Okay, so let me copy this. Okay, copy this. So now I'm using class name to get this button, correct? So for that, sci dot get, and here I'm not directly going to specify the, okay, what is that? This is my class name, but here, because I have to separate it as a tag name, this is not a tag name, this is a class name, right? Earlier we specified in the double quotes all the tags. So for the class you need to include dot. So what it's going to do, it's going to consider it as a class. So now I'm telling get all the elements that has a class name as btn with class. Save this. So as soon as I save, if you see here, I got the two elements because these two elements has the class name. Let me see. Let me go here. If you see, this element has btn with class and this element also has a btn with class. Correct? In the class name. btn with class, btn with class. Right? So that is the reason it is giving me all the elements that has a class name with this particular text, right? So that is our next test, that is pass. Now our next agenda is get a specific element with a specific class attribute. Okay, get a specific, get an element with specific class attribute. Specific class, see here we did not specify the specific class attribute, right? We just specified dot and then class name. So what is the difference? Let's see here. Sci dot get, what is going to do here? Here sci dot get, I'm gonna specify the class. How? With the parenthesis. Okay, class equal to get the class, get the element by using class specific attribute called class. Any attribute that we are going to specify, that we will be specifying in parentheses. Okay, you remember that. Class equal to, what is the class? I want to get an element with class. Okay, let's get something, okay, let me get this element. What element? Let's do one thing. Let's get this element. Okay, this element. Copy this. I'm specifying entire class name. Okay, copy this and paste it here. Okay, get with this particular, get the element by using class attribute. That's what we are doing here. Okay, save this. As soon as you save, it should run my test. And if you see, it has a unique match because I took entire class name attribute, right? In the same way, if I want to get another, let me get another one. Let me get this one. Copy this. Okay, let me copy this entire command and let me just replace the new class. Copy. Done. And save this. So as soon as you save, it runs the test. If you see here, this is my new test. See, this is the button I got, and here this is the button I got. Correct? So it's giving me correct button. The next one. Now what is our next agenda item? Our next agenda is get an element, right? Get an element by ID. Get all elements by ID. So if you see in the application, there are some elements that has ID also. Okay, if you see this one, let me see, this button has an attribute called ID. Now I need to get a button, get an element by using this ID attribute. Okay, how? Let's do the same thing here. Okay, so instead of class, now we are going to use ID. Sci dot get, okay, sci dot get attribute you need to specify in the parenthesis. Sci dot get id equal to, what is this? The id is equal to this, correct? The id is equal to this. That's it. Let's save this. Now it's going to run your test. See, what is the button I got? I got this button which has id. That is correct now. Then get all the elements. Now I am going to teach you one different method. See, now what if you have a same id for a couple of buttons? Then you need to consider multiple attributes. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's get all the elements, by combination of tag and class name. So basically I want to use a tag name as well as the class. How can we do that? Sci dot get, okay, so if you see, each and every element has a tag name called button, right? Apart from tag name called button, it also has a class called elements button, correct? The class name elements button. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to combine tag name and the class name. Okay, so let's do one thing. The get button, this is my tag name, dot this class elements hyphen btn. That means please get all the elements that has a tag name this and which has a class name, because class name is specified with the dot, correct, which has a class name as this. Okay, let's save this. If you see, it should give me all 14. If you see, it is giving me all 14 because all 14 for every button I can see. Let's say this one, it has a button, it has a class name called this one. So every button has all these. That's why it's giving me all 14 elements. Okay, so now let's do one thing. Let's copy this. I want to save time, sometime. So that's why copy this. Now what I'm going to do, tag name, I'm going to combination of tag name, class name and id. Okay, how can we do that? So if you see here, same command, get button element, what is the class name is this one, element btn, and I want to add id. What is the id that I want to add? Let's say, let's go to this button. Okay, let me go to this button id, correct? So let's see what is the id of this button. So the id of this button is this. Copy this. All I need to do is I need to append, because anytime id should be appended with the hash. See, the class name is appended with dot, id is appended with hash. Okay, hash and this, and simply save this. Now it should give me only one button. See, it has one element, it gave me one element. Okay, here let me explain one more thing. Here when I explained about element using just a class name, right? Here the same thing I can do here. Okay, if you see here, hash because this is my id, that's why I'm specifying as hash. This is my class, that's why I'm specifying as dot, right? So this should execute everything. See, this is the one, this one, by using button. Same thing I'm getting here also, same thing I'm getting. The difference is I'm using multiple attributes. Okay, and now let me explain another concept. Let me copy this to save some time. Now get all the elements by tag name, class and type attribute. Type attribute. Okay, if you see here the type attribute, okay, if you see here I have one button with type attribute. If you see this and this one, okay, this has a type attribute called submit. See, this is my type, this is my type attribute, correct? Submit. Okay, so for that what I'm going to do here, instead of this id, I'm going to enter the specific attribute. So attribute can be specified under parenthesis, if you remember correctly, in the above command, right, in the above test. Type equal to submit, that's it. And now save this. So it's going to give me again, it's going to identify the element, specific element. That means if you see, it is identifying two elements, this one and this one. Let's go back to application again, understand if this is correct. What are those? Of course this is correct. We already know this has a type attribute, and also it is showing me another one is third button, this one. So let's see, if you see here, see, this also has a type attribute called submit. So that's why it is showing me two elements. Okay, I think we covered all the concepts whatever I thought of teaching you guys. Okay, this is really very important session, because for any test that you want to automate, first you need to identify the elements. So these are all the different methods that we have in Cypress to identify the elements. Okay, so if you have any queries, leave your queries in the comment box. I'll try to respond to your queries. Okay, please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon. You'll receive notifications whenever I publish more videos. Thank you.